Someday, we're all going to die. This knowledge influences every decision we make. Some people seek the most exciting of experiences, wanting to feel like they've truly lived. Others want to build something lasting for future generations and prepare for whatever life throws at them. A lot of us just do our best to survive, being kind to others, eating nice food when we can, and most importantly, spending time with loved ones and creating small but meaningful daily memories. And if we're lucky, we can even carve out some time to follow our dreams. My dream has always been to tell stories. I'm always thinking about potential ideas for books, movies, games, or YouTube videos. Worlds that I could build or characters that could be fun to make an adventure about. In December of 2024, I was watching the second season of Squid Game on Netflix. I'm almost positive you know the premise of the show, but just to make sure, it's about a man in South Korea who gets invited to a series of games where people play to the death, and the final survivor wins enough money to change their life forever. After every round of the games, all the contestants sit in a room and look up at a large screen that shows how many people died and how many are left, creating a video game aesthetic to an extremely dark and macabre situation. After finishing the season, I was left thinking about how a show that was so morbid could find such universal success. It touches on many themes: poverty, corruption, what it means to be a good person, all topics that a majority of consumers can relate to. And then there's the great set design and some really engaging and intense performances, all elements that make it a very compelling series. But the one thing that was sticking with me was the idea that death is a universal experience. And maybe that was a big reason as to why the show found success. I started to think about how many stories, whether in literature, film, or video games, are about death, especially all of the ones that people consider the greats. They almost always force us to face our mortality and try to wrestle with what that means to each of us as individuals. I kept thinking about Battle Royale the movie and Hunger Games, and then the countless Battle Royale video games that have found critical and financial success over the years. That tension of having one life and potentially losing everything, or somehow becoming the victor and surviving to see another day. Maybe this is the key to a great story. Sitting with this concept for a bit, I had an idea for my own show. Of course, it's something I would never make. Maybe I would write a short story. It's inspired by that tension in Squid Game, of knowing that after every game, more people would be gone. Looking up at that screen and seeing the number go down, slowly watching your luck run out. Here's the premise. What if one day, a giant set of numbers appeared in the sky? Maybe it was from some alien intervention or God or demons. Regardless, the number would start at 100, and everyone older than 100 would die. And then the next year, it would go to 99, and everyone of that age would die. And slowly the population would get younger and younger, and then the youngest of society would be charged with running the ruined world, while also looking for a solution to stop the countdown from hitting zero. I couldn't really figure out a good reason for the numbers to exist, or how it would feel grounded and immersive, but that was a problem for another day. I thought it was a pretty cool idea. I was thinking the story would start at number 19, and it would be like a teenage post-apocalyptic survival story, similar to the YA novels I enjoyed when I was younger, like Hunger Games or Maze Runner. Life went on, and I didn't really do anything with it, which is normal for me and many, I'm sure, but it still sat in the back of my mind as something that would be pretty interesting to make. And then, a couple months later, I hear about this indie game that is shaking the industry.
Even if we fail, we lay the trail for those who will come after. Right? We are Expedition 33.
Clair Obscure Expedition 33. People are saying this is the next big thing, with a unique take on JRPG-style gameplay, with reactive animations and menus and beautiful art direction and graphics, and they're saying that the story is incredible. So I jump on the bandwagon and download the game. What the fuck? There it was, right before my eyes. Numbers in the sky, the younger generation carrying the world on its shoulders. I thought I was going crazy. I kept playing and saw so many of my ideas play right before my eyes. Of course, it was much better defined and in a completely different style and setting than I had imagined. It was a more mature take, and very French. As I continued to play, I was blown away by the combat mechanics and extremely impressed with the quality of animation, especially during the fights. It was so energetic and alive, and yes, it was hard. But there was one thing that pushed me, a rather casual gamer, to fight through the difficulty, learn the patterns, and get to the next level. The story. The writing is incredible. I binged the first act. I couldn't put it down. Gustav was my favorite character. Charlie Cox's performance was marvelous. I've been a huge fan of his since Stardust, but then the Daredevil Netflix series cemented him as one of the greats, to me. I'm also a huge sucker for pistols in a fantasy setting. Something about the combo of a gunslinger using magic is so freaking cool. In fact, I'm gonna make a whole video about that. I decided, like, while I was writing the script, I'm like, yeah, that's something I gotta do. But yeah, Gustav was my favorite. He dies. Guys, I cannot tell you how shook I was. Like, maybe I should have seen it coming. Maybe you're all smarter than me, but I did not. And I was distraught. Like, I had made a whole system with him and the other characters, and I was really getting into a groove. And then boom, gone, dead. Now, I'm going to admit something really embarrassing. I kind of stopped playing the game when that happened. I was so affected that I just needed to take a break, you know? Maybe you felt that way at some point with some book or film character, but I just was like, I need a breath. That was awesome, intense, and a lot. After taking a break, I didn't really get back into the game. Work gets busy, stuff happens in life, and it's been a few months now. I've played other games in my free time, but I haven't really set aside the time to get back into Clair Obscure because you kind of need to get into the groove and remember, how the rhythm works. Now it's won Game of the Year 2025, so I'm pretty sure after finishing this video, I'm going to try and get that done, just for my pride's sake. Hey, Astrogard, you are kind of rambling right now. What about that whole
"Death binds us all together"
intro? Well, I'm getting to that. After playing the game for a bit, and seeing all of the acclaim it was getting, I couldn't help but feel a little like a loser. I had had this idea for a story, and instead of doing something with it, I just sat on it. And someone else had a similar idea and went ahead and made a masterpiece with it. Now, let me be clear. I am not saying that I could have made anything like Clair Obscure, or even written anything as good. The game is a combination of so many incredible ideas and innovations, and it's only as good as it is because of all the talented people that came together in the perfect storm of creativity. What I am saying is that because I didn't do anything with my idea sooner, now no one will ever believe me when I say, oh, I had this story idea. Maybe if I make a huge YouTube video about it, I might be able to convince a few of you. And on top of that, if I were to make something with these story elements, it would forever just be a copy of Clair Obscure. And that sucks, because clearly the story is successful and resonating with hundreds of thousands of people. So I missed the boat. Missed my opportunity, and it is my fault. I've told pretty much all my friends and family about this, and I get a range of answers from, cool, sure, and guess you should have done something sooner. And if I'm giving myself a little slack, they did come up with the idea years before me and had just been working on the game, the whole time. So from the time when I came up with my idea to the game releasing, I only had about 6 months to do something with it before, I'd be out of time. Now, who is this genius writer that thwarted my story plans? Her name is Jennifer Svedbri Yen. I probably pronounced it wrong, and I apologize. She is the lead writer for Clair Obscure Expedition 33. You should definitely watch some of the interviews she's given. Her career path and story are really cool and inspiring. She really wanted to create a world that didn't hold the players' hands too much, and went for a Hollywood-style script approach, which goes hand in hand with the high-caliber motion capture and voice acting that brings the story to life. This was actually her first job as a writer. She primarily wrote in her free time as a hobby while working in the private equity sector, and then saw the call for voice actors on Reddit for an upcoming AA game. She auditioned just on a whim and got the opportunity to interview with the team. After building that relationship, she was invited to be a writer because of her ideas and talent for storytelling. The game actually started with a smaller scale concept that they thought would fit within their budget. But after meeting with investors, they were invited to go bigger. So they started over, and this led to Expedition 33, which was based off of one of the personal short stories she had written years before. And obviously, as we can see, it's been a huge success. In the end, I'm not upset. I think it's just kind of a fun coincidence, and I'm grateful the game exists. And I'm excited to get back into it and see how it ends, or at least see which ending I get, because there are multiple. Coincidence. That doesn't sound right. Is it? A coincidence? In the book, The Political Unconscious, Narrative as a Socially Symbolic Act, published in 1981 by the literary theorist Frederick Jameson, he proposes an idea that all stories are the product of your socio-political climate, that there are implicit and hidden ideas that permeate society during any period of time, and these ideas seep into all of the art created to give us an understanding of the people's collective thoughts and fears. I'm of course paraphrasing, and maybe others have a different interpretation of the text. But more simply put, it's the idea that right now, we are all telling the same story that is a commentary about how we feel about the world as it currently is. And honestly, I think I might agree. Me, some random dude in his early 30s who grew up in the Northwest, Jennifer, a successful writer a decade older than me who grew up in California, had the same idea. A world where giant numbers appear in the sky and everyone of that age dies. Something mysterious, something out of their control, and irrespective of gender, background, or affiliation. What does that say about how we feel about the world right now? What unconscious concern or belief is present in our minds that made us think this is something worth telling? And maybe there are others of you out there who have had the exact same idea, variations of it, but with that similarity of the unfeeling countdown towards death. This, of course, wouldn't be the first time something like this has happened. Over the years, there have been many situations where multiple books, movies, and shows come out within a span of a few years, and they are all about the same things. There are varying reasons and motivations for these cultural moments. A Bug's Life and Ants came out at the same time, which was the direct result of a studio rivalry, which is hilarious and petty and awesome. Then you have the Pinocchio Gate of 2022, when 3 versions of the film from 3 different studios came out at the same time.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own?
A combination of the IP entering the public domain, but also maybe something else. Every couple of years, there's a concept, an idea, a fear that is so universally present that it seeps into the art of that time. Whether it's the Cold War and an overwhelming presence of US versus Russia in the media, or zombie films and our collective fear of a pandemic, which we then had. While some films and commentary are more on the nose,
Okay. What kind of American are you?
others that are more fantastical and fictional, I believe, are in response to how we're feeling about the world. So what does this story about numbers in the sky say about us right now? This isn't the first video where I mention my fear of the overwhelming income gap and its implications on the average American's access to a happy lifestyle. And it won't be the last. But maybe the large numbers in the sky are a symbol of the economic and political elite that take, year over year, more and more. Maybe the story of the younger generation having to carry the world on its shoulders is a manifestation of the divide between the settled and stable baby boomers and the millennial struggle to afford housing and basic healthcare, while trying to build a future their children would be proud of. Honestly, I don't know. Yes, I do feel that way about these things, but these story ideas could straight up just be stories. Or they could represent 100 other things that I don't even know about. But I don't think it's a coincidence. Wow, Astrogard, you are being a real bummer right now. Am I? This video actually isn't about death. It's about life. And one of the reasons I think death is such an important factor in so many of the most celebrated stories. It's a reminder that this life is ours. The choices we make have consequences, and we get to choose those choices. Yes, the options may be limited depending on our situations, but there's one thing as universal as death, the fact that we can try. After processing this experience with Expedition 33, I made a promise to myself. If I have an idea that I think is good, a story I want to tell, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to wait for someone else to beat me to it. Worst case scenario, it's out there and I get more experience. But nothing comes from just sitting on it and letting it waste away. That's why I started this channel. I decided not to wait anymore, even if it's scary and vulnerable and sometimes embarrassing. And that's why you should start, whatever it is you've been dreaming of. Life is short. Don't wait. Start now. Maybe no one will ever see what you make or see what you do. That's wonderful. It's no less important than the things that are seen. I promise you will be happier making steps towards your dreams than by watching life pass you by. Sorry about that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please give it a like and drop a comment about story ideas that you've had. And maybe even subscribe. Either way, keep telling stories, keep reading, watching, and playing. It's what makes us human.